1986. Boosted by a slingshot from Saturn, Voyager 2 arrives at Uranus. After 9 years in space, the probe is now in uncharted territory.
Ahead of Voyager's encounter, Uranus was really difficult to know much about. We knew what its color was, but it didn't have any obvious features from the Earth. It looked sort of like a generic green blob.
We did know a couple things. Uranus has rings and sits on its side.
Unlike most of the other planets, whose spin axes are oriented more or less perpendicular to their orbital plane, Uranus is tipped over on its side. It rolls around the sun like a barrel at times. There are other times where the sun is shining right down the equator. It's very unusual.
In a flyby lasting just 5.5 hours, Voyager 2 discovers 11 new moons and 2 more ghostly rings circling Uranus. But Voyager 2's strangest discovery is the planet's freakish magnetic field.
Voyager carried a magnetic boom that told us about the magnetic field of the planet, and that turned out to be really interesting.
The strength and direction of Uranus's magnetic field turns out to be unlike any other planet's.
The Earth has a magnetic field, and it's pretty complicated how it behaves, but you can think of it as if there's a giant bar magnet inside the planet. There's a north magnetic pole and a south magnetic pole, and magnetic field lines around them.
On Earth, that bar magnet lines up close to our planet's spin axis. The Voyager probes found the same at Saturn and Jupiter. But Uranus's magnetosphere is different.
The north and south axis of the magnetic field is tilted by almost 60 degrees relative to the spin axis of Uranus. That's strange.
If you imagine transforming the Earth's magnetic field to be like the Uranus one, you'd have the magnetic North Pole down near Miami someplace. It's way out there in left field.
And the magnetic field isn't just tilted.
It's off center. The center of the magnetic field you'd think would be at the center of the planet. It's actually offset by 5,000 miles, which is a lot. We think it may be generated in the mantle of Uranus, where there is molten water, not molten iron.
Extreme heat and pressure breaks water molecules apart and rearranges them into a molten crystal structure, an exotic state called superionic ice.
When we talk about ice, like superionic ice inside a giant planet, we're not talking about ice cubes.
Water has lots of different ways of being, and some of them are really strange.
The half-liquid, half-solid ice swirls around in the outer layer of the planet, moving like liquid metal. Because the ice conducts electricity, this produces the offset magnetic field around Uranus. Voyager 2 also uncovered a gigantic magnetic glitch, but it remained hidden in the data until scientists discovered it in 2020.
What they found was a blip, a strengthening of the magnetic field, and it was about 1 million miles behind Uranus, and whatever was causing this was quite large.
It's a giant magnetic bubble, 250,000 miles across, floating in space.
This type of magnetic bubble is called a plasmoid, and it happens when the magnetic field lines get pinched off, and it can create sort of a self-contained shell.
This means that the magnetic field around Uranus is dynamic and can fracture and interact with the solar wind in very interesting ways.
This can also have some of the atmosphere of Uranus in it, so it's literally leaking gas into space. Uranus is belching.
It'll take another mission to Uranus to truly understand this strange world. For now, Voyager 2 is the only spacecraft to ever visit. And what awaits the probe next could be Voyager's greatest discovery yet. 1989, Voyager 2 makes one last flyby. Neptune is the final stop on the planet-hopping tour of the outer solar system. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to study the blue ice giant up close.
We had these hints from our ground-based telescope that there was activity in the atmosphere. But what its nature was, What was it like? There absolutely was nothing we had to prepare us for what we were going to see.
Voyager 2 spots 4 new rings and 6 more moons. It detects hydrogen, helium, and methane in Neptune's atmosphere. And it records the fastest winds in the solar system, pushing white clouds across the planet at up to 1,500 miles an hour. And at their center, a colossal dark storm.
There was a dark spot, a big, dark spot on the disk of Neptune. We hadn't seen anything like that from the ground. It was like, what is that? We called it the Great Dark Spot because that's all we could think of at the time.
5 years later, when astronomers look for the Great Dark Spot with the Hubble Space Telescope, they get a surprise.
I was going to look at how it had changed with time and, where was it located, things like that. And I remember I got my first images back from Hubble. No great dark spot. It was gone. It simply wasn't there. I'm like, what happened? How is this even possible? The great red spot on Jupiter has lasted for hundreds of years. This is only 5 years, and this huge feature was simply gone.
Since Voyager 2, we've seen 7 different dark spots on Neptune's surface, none lasting more than a few years.
As to why that is and what's driving that, those are still mysteries that we haven't fully solved.
Before leaving the Neptune system, Voyager 2 turns its gaze to Neptune's largest moon, Triton.
It was sort of a bit like Voyager's last hurrah. It was sort of one of the last things it showed us, and it was just phenomenal.
Voyager 2's instruments reveal a frozen world. At 391 degrees below zero, Triton is one of the coldest objects in the solar system.
Here was a very intriguing world. We saw these dark streaks on the surface and realized that they were actually sticking up above the surface.
What they were seeing was an active cryovolcano jetting, a jet of black material, something like 8 miles up above the surface of Triton. And then the atmosphere of Triton was shearing it out into a large cloud pattern.
That was one of our first indications of geyser-like activity on a planet other than the Earth. It was almost pandemonium, really, trying to figure out how do you generate this kind of activity on a moon that should be cryogenically frozen solid? Where's the energy source for this?
In 2019, scientists finally identify frozen nitrogen and carbon monoxide in the streaks.
We think now what actually is going on there is that the action of sunlight shining into some of the darker deposits on the surface of the moon. Just a little bit of a temperature change can take the nitrogen and liberate it off the surface.
In their grand tour of the solar system, the Voyager probes produce an astounding number of discoveries.
Volcanoes on Io and geysers on Triton and little weavy features in the rings of Saturn. It all turned out to be far, far more interesting and alive and dynamic than we ever imagined.
While Voyager 2 leaves the planets behind, its twin, Voyager 1, heads to the edge of the solar system. But not before taking one last snapshot of home, a family portrait.
This idea by Carl Sagan to take this family portrait is just magnificent, and the scientific need for it may have been limited, but the appeal to our sense of beauty, staggering.
This shot isn't in pursuit of a new discovery. It's about finding a new perspective.
This family portrait is a series of 60 images put together into a mosaic, and in it you can see the sun and 6 planets: Venus, Earth, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune.
As we were studying the images, we noticed along one of these sunbeams, there was the Earth, that pale blue dot, which contains every single person. We realized just how tiny our planet is and how very special.
It's one of the most amazing and beautiful things I've ever seen.
February 1990. The cameras power down for the last time. But this mission isn't over. The Voyager probes are about to reach the edge of the solar system, a region no spacecraft has been to before. Far from the sun, at the very edge of the solar system, lies a vast expanse where no human-made object has ever entered until the Voyagers.
This is like early explorers leaving sight of land. They are just surrounded by a vast ocean of night, and they are all alone.
It's sort of like the boat going from the bay out into the open ocean. It's a whole different environment